This photograph is of my parents in their first home together at the Ree in Hempstead. The house was flooded when I was 18 months old. I was handed through a window to a fireman. We moved into Melbourne Street, not very many houses away from my grandparents. These photos show the garden as it was when we first arrived, and it needed an awful lot of work done initially, but my father was keen on growing food, also flowers. So we had a lovely garden. I don't think I did very much, but I'm obviously standing there with a shovel. This photograph was taken on the 2nd of September 1938 in Dolly Beaukett's garden, behind the grocer's shop which Dolly kept on the corner of Hatherley Road and Adelaide Street. Dolly's sister kept a draper's shop next door, and every Easter I was taken there to buy a straw sun hat, white cotton socks, and if I was lucky, a new dress. Once the war had started, it was very difficult to get clothes. Clothing rationing was brought in by the government, and you were issued with a ration book, and these had various coupons inside. You had to save up your coupons to buy what you wanted. I still managed to get my white ankle socks, my summer hat and my dress. I liked to play on the bollards, which were moorings for boats. Wainloads was a popular fishing spot, but my father fished in both the Severn and the Gloucester to Sharpness Canal. I do have vague memories of playing by the banks with my mother, as she tried to keep me out of the water. During the war, my mother and her two sisters did war work. My mother's work was in the factory. My Auntie Gwen, her younger sister, she did war work at the Hatherley Works as well, and she was a sewing machinist there. I used to watch the workers cycle into work, and I would see them cycling along the driveway from my bedroom window. And when my mother and my Auntie Gwen perhaps had a tea break, they would wave to me from the ramp. You can see the ramp itself reflected in the window of the photograph, which was taken outside the dining room of our house. The photograph itself shows my mother, my Auntie Gwen and a work colleague who I think was called Steve, standing on the steps going up to the building from where they would access the ramp. This photograph shows my mother in the garden picking dahlias. She always loved flowers. She grew them around the vegetables which we grew in the wartime. There was a campaign in the wartime, which was a Dig for Victory campaign. In order to alleviate the food shortages, people were encouraged to grow vegetables in their garden, but Mum still managed to grow around the vegetables some flowers. I'm standing with my brother in the garden of my Auntie Gwen and Uncle Gordon. As you see, there are a lot of flowers there. They were very house proud and garden proud, so we tended not to play in there very much. But it was quite nice because with the Hatherley Works behind, I could wave to my auntie, whose workstation was almost directly behind her garden. In the photograph, I'm there with my cousin Raymond. He was about 9 or 10 months at the time, and Dobbin was a toy which was for him, but I loved playing with it, and so I would push him quite regularly around the garden, making sure he didn't fall off. Each year there was an annual turkey dance held at the Guildhall. Tickets were quite expensive, I think, but the hope of winning a turkey, and a very fine one, for Christmas dinner was, in those days of food rationing, very, very enticing. The winning dancers are holding their prizes in this photograph. Seated in the front of the photograph are dancers from the Flame School of Dance and Drama. Miss Bassett was the lady who ran it, and she was a former ballerina, and she danced the flame dance. The war bred an attitude of living now, because you didn't know how much longer your loved ones, or even you, with bombing and so on, would be living. And so people were determined to enjoy themselves and make the best of everything. It was all part of the wartime spirit that cemented communities together.